Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Joseph Clough, and this is episode 508. And I hope you are well as always. Now, on this podcast, it is super exciting. And there's something that I want to hopefully do on a continuous level. And that is bring my great and powerful father, Paul Clough, who set me up on this journey in many ways. And we're just discussing this, and we'll get to it soon. He's been doing this for many years now as well. And we'll get to the details of that. But I'm super excited to have my dad on the podcast to impart and share his insight and how together we can help and serve you transform your life. So welcome, Dad.
Hey, good to be here. And hopefully we can share some good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, people are obviously aware of you. We've actually, I don't know if you remember, years ago, we actually did a double induction hypnosis track, which people enjoy to this day. I can't quite remember which episode it was, but people are aware, but it's now time to be able to go that little bit deeper and to get your insight.
Yeah, good.
So how long have you been doing it for?
Well, as we were talking, the strange thing is within about, I don't know, maybe 5-6 days, I will have been doing or been certified as a master hypnotist for 21 years. So playing around with minds, changing minds for 21 years. And the weirdest thing about that is for me, because it always astounds me, I don't know about you, but do you have these things where you suddenly go, you find something of interest and you just do it and you get so heavily involved with it, and then a few weeks or months later you find out it's gone by the wind and it's just disappeared? But this thing has stuck with me, and it's stuck with me. I'm still excited about it. I still read about it. I still listen about it. I still do it. It just keeps growing and growing, and it never fails to bring new stuff to me. So it's so exciting that way. Mm-hmm. That's what hypnosis does, I think. That and I'll say that again. That and NLP. You know, you put those two together, super powerful.
I remember all the books that you brought, and then I repurchased myself when I was like leaving home and things like that. So why do you think that is? Why do you think hypnosis, the mind, has been very parauful for you, which has just been a continuous journey?
Well, I think initially, if you go way back to the very, let's go back 21 years and a few days. In fact, a couple of months before that, because I was interested in NLP, and you know the lovely guy up in the north of England, Wilf mm-hmm. Proudfoot, bless his soul, he's not here anymore. But I wanted to do NLP, and I wanted to do NLP with Wilf Proudfoot, and he wouldn't let me do it. And over a period of about 3 months, I was on the phone to him, backwards and forwards. Please, Wilf, I just want to do NLP. And he goes, Paul, you can't do it. You have to do hypnosis first. And I'm thinking, I don't even know what hypnosis is. Why would I want to do that first? You are a trainer. You're supposed to train me in what I want to do. And he kept saying, no, Paul. And we're really friendly terms by then, because it's Paul and Wilf. Wilf, please. No, Paul, you can't. And in the end, something inside me made me just say, okay, I'll do it. And as you know, you're living in America now, Joe, and 300 miles in America is a hop, skip and a jump. In England, and for your dad here, he didn't travel very far. So 300 miles was a gigantic leap. And I had to have that gigantic leap of faith to do this blooming thing. And I didn't know why.
And you were leaving,
and that was the weirdest thing,
your wife and 3 children at home to go on this journey.
That's right, on this journey of why are you going to do hypnosis? And I'm saying to people, I don't know. I really don't know, but I'm just going to do it. So I'm taking time off work, disappearing, going to see some people I don't know who they are, and to do this thing. And the road that used to go there had loads and loads of roundabouts. I know there's not too many roundabouts in the USA, but the big roundabouts in the road. And I was going round them a couple of times each time before moving on to the next exit, because I had this real anxiety going on, this thing where, am I making the right decision? even a little of imposter stuff coming in, saying, who am I to think that I can go and learn something? I was in the building industry. I should just be doing what I know. I was good at what I did. Just keep on doing that. And I didn't really understand why, but there was something deep inside that just kept like pushing on the accelerator, steering the wheel, going there. And when we got there, didn't know anybody. And I was an introvert as well. I still am an introvert when it comes out on these things. I like talking, but I'm an introvert when it comes around about people. And we got there. And what happens the very first day? Wilf comes up. He stands up on the little stage. It's only like a foot-high stage, if you remember, with little plastic chairs, and he was there. And he said, I want you to do something. And there was about 16 of us, I think, so it's not very big, but that was big for me. And I thought, I don't mind doing anything as long as it's not introduce myself. And he took out a microphone and he handed it to the first person and said, I want you to stand up, tell everyone your name, why you're here, and what do you want to get out of this training? Well, the last two questions, I hadn't got an idea anyway. And I kept saying to myself, which was like the biggest hypnosis little instruction I was giving myself, was, don't forget your name, Paul. Don't forget your name. Don't forget your name. Don't forget your name. And of course, I wasn't even second. I was about 13 down the line. So more and more this is going round and round in my head. And what did I do? I stood up and said, I don't really know who I am. I can't remember. And I don't know why I'm here, but I hope I have a good time. And I just sat down and shrunk.
I think a lot of people can resonate with that.
It was painful. And I'm thinking now, why am I here? I've left everyone at home. I don't know why I'm here. And now I'm putting myself through all this stuff. And then what happened? And it was magical to me, because Wilf talked a little bit, and he said he got another chair on the little stage, and he asked this guy to come up, and he didn't say a word. He didn't do any, as what we would say, like just getting the scene, setting the scene, telling people what's going to happen. He just sat and said to this guy, just look me in the eye. And as this guy was looking him in the eye, Wilf didn't say a word, but you could just see his blinking was changing slightly. His head would move, and it was like they were in time with each other. And then all of a sudden, his eyes closed, his head came down, and Wilf just said, that's right, sleep. And then turned to talk to us about what he was going to do for the rest of the week. And this guy was there, and he said, oh, by the way, just to make sure we know what's happening, I want someone in the bottom corner to say their name out loud. And then I want someone else over that corner to say a nursery rhyme. And we go, what is happening here? And then after about 15 minutes, and this guy still sat on the stage, slumped over a little bit, and he said, right, you can open your eyes and come out of trance now. And he said, oh, by the way, what was the nursery rhyme? And the guy repeated it. And he said, it was in that corner over there. And that lady stood up and said her name. And I thought, what is happening? Because he was in trance. He was in a deep trance. But just by staring at somebody. Now, that should have freaked me out and I should have gone home. But it didn't. It freaked me out in a good way, thinking, this is something special. And if you can use this for something special. And I went there for devious reasons, as you know. I was in very much a commercial mind, and I was responsible for commercial stuff in the business. And I just wanted to use this stuff to get more money, to get that one over on somebody. What a horrible attitude to have, really. At the time, I didn't think it was horrible. That was just the way the business was.
Well, you're in business. You needed to win deals. You need to negotiate.
That was how business was done in those days. You know, you told lies to get through and things like that. But all of a sudden, I saw things differently. How you could use somebody else's emotions to give them what they want, which is what you want in the thing. So it wasn't just a win-win, which is the old way of give a win-win. It was actually, no, you're going to get something from this, and by the way, I'll come with you. And everything from that moment on, it was just a dream, and it was like a dream. And then when I came back, I was hypnotizing people and doing things. And then it just went on from there for another 20 odd years now.
You'd be working your full-time job and more hours than most full-time jobs. I mean, you're doing a lot of the work early mornings and even in the evenings, then you'll be seeing clients or friends or people who couldn't afford to pay just as a hobby, and you'd just do that in the evenings.
That's right. Remember, me and you had a little discussion about it one time when you decided to actually go full-time and become that professional, the early youngest professional hypnotist around. And I was doing it because I wanted to do it for the same amount of money that anybody could afford, which is fine when you're getting paid by somebody else, because it's like you feel good factor, but we're not professional. But then I remember you having a little chat with me by saying, what's the value of the work that we do? What's the value of the results? Because I remember that time, and you'll remember it, the guy who I saw, because he was just being sick with worry when he was driving he had a big lorry to drive, and every time he made a mistake, he would get out of the van and be sick. He would just be out of the thing, and he was actually getting to a point where he wanted to commit suicide. And as you know, we like to see people first to make sure we're right for them and they're right for us. And of course, we didn't have time for that. So I saw him that day. And as he came in, he burst into tears. No way was he going to answer any questions to get to do a normal thing. And so I just looked at him. He went into trance. And I asked his unconscious mind to resolve this issue. Or words to that effect. We have that process of where there's no content. And came out of it, smiled, said thank you very much, and went away. And then all of a sudden, the following day, we were getting phone calls from him, his work, saying, what's happened to this guy? What have you done? He is now a completely different man. His wife was she was a different woman because he was a different man. His children were thing. I worked with his wife, you worked with his sister, or the other way around. I think you worked with his wife and I worked with his sister, and everything just kept changing. And we also worked with the people that he worked with, all because of that little magic thing of getting one unconscious mind to change. Mm-hmm. And we didn't know why. And that's where I think the magic is, though. The magic is that you can actually change without content as well.
Yeah. And how one decision will actually transform many people in your life if you do change, or if you do have that epiphany, if you make a decision to release an issue, not only you get the value and the benefit of that emotional freedom, but everyone in your life or who's soon to be in your life because of that change transforms as well.
Yeah, we always say things, and it sounds corny sometimes when you say, be the change you want to see in others, or be the change you want to just see. And it sounds corny, but creating your reality. He created his own reality when he changed.
Yeah.
And we didn't do anything. We were there, or I was there, in that little bubble of magic. Or it was magical, not magic. It's not magic. But he changed. His unconscious mind decided that there was something better to do in a way to get that positive intention that we talk about. And then all of a sudden, so many people changed. And I don't know, the other thing we say is, we never know how far the ripples of change will go. Mm-hmm. Well, you and I on that family and their friends and their friends, we don't know how far that change went.
Sure.
Because we all know that the effect was going to go a lot further than we could see.
And also, we can take that into another example, and just to remember, this is like the introduction to Paul and how it's going to be on this podcast here and there, to be able to have a different dynamic, a different perspective. But the ripple also started from you learning NLP and hypnosis, which then created a ripple out to me. Because then I got into it, right? So at 18 years old, as my dad said, I got into it. So that one decision to go on that crazy journey to be able to learn NLP, to be able to get better in business, actually spiraled out into a journey of creating not just one son, being me that is, but actually my middle brother, Luke, and also Daniel in many ways to personal development.
Well, Daniel's very much into it, and we can see there's NLP and hypnosis in what he does, but certainly Luke taking over Cambridge Hypnotherapy, running himself. It's quite strange. I mean, if you think about it, why would an 18-year-old go to a class or a week's training for hypnosis? Who would send their son away for a week away? And I know that at that time you were having issues around what you want to do with your life because you weren't happy. You weren't happy at your work. You weren't happy that, again, the ripples of that particular negativity was going elsewhere with your friends and your socializing and everything like that. And I can remember just thinking, I don't know what to do. I'm the father, but I don't know what to do. And the only thing I could think of is, well, I think you'll find it inside yourself. And if you go to a hypnosis training, you'll find what you're going to do. And 100% certain that you weren't going to become a trainer of hypnosis, a trainer of NLP, because I thought you were going to go and find a different profession completely. Like me, I didn't have any interest with that at the time, but then all of a sudden things change and it just blossomed together, doesn't it, really?
Absolutely. And I wasn't just sent away as well, because I kind of had experiences of it from my blushing. And I was going for that interview and you taught me a few little techniques. We did a hypnosis session or two. For the job I actually began to dislike and got me into the position of wanting to get out of the industry. So I had a good idea or an aspect to it or an experience of it which created great changes. So I thought, well, yeah, I should be able to learn something despite being petrified of going on that same long journey on those roundabouts. I had a very small turquoise green 1 liter Vauxhall Nova. And that was it was a life-changing experience in many ways, because you go beyond your your comfort zone ultimately, because you've got to, and this for everyone, if you're wanting to make a change, you got to stop doing what you're already doing, unless it's gaining traction and getting results. You got to do something else, and that usually means having to go beyond your comfort zone, because that's where the growth is. It doesn't mean you have to put yourself in bad situations or situations which will petrify you, but you still got to push yourself. You got to think differently. You got to make decisions which are different from your normal story, because that's where the growth is. It might feel like tension, but that tension is like building a muscle. You need to put some tension on it, because that's going to build that muscle and it's going to cause you to experience more.
And when you think about that, even on the comfort zone, sometimes you and I call it the familiar zone. It's not even comfortable sometimes.
Absolutely.
If we're suffering from anxiety, guilt, fear, or whatever, but we just stay there, because sometimes there's that imaginary wall that we don't go through, and it is just imaginary. And when you just go past that, I don't know anybody who's regretted going past it.
Yeah.
Because they've found something wonderful on the other side. And they just need that little bit of help to go and to see it for what it is, which is nothing. It's imaginary.
So what would be one of your tips? So let's just say someone's in a situation and they're a time of struggle, they've got an issue, they've got imposter syndrome, inner critic. What would you say? And I'm sure you may or may not echo my thoughts. I mean, we definitely come from the same approach in many ways, but I know you have different insights or different perspectives of it. But what would you say would be some good starting points, or just a starting point for someone wanting to get out of that familiar zone, which is very uncomfortable? It's like you said, it's more uncomfortable remaining in pain than it is actually going and doing it eventually, because you look back and realize it wasn't that painful making that change. But what would you say if someone's starting out and they're in stress or in struggle, they have issues? What would be one of the first steps or a few steps?
I think the very first thing is just to not accept call it pain that you're in, because that negative emotion is painful. Depending, it can be from a little bit painful to a lot painful, but it's to acknowledge it for a moment. Just to acknowledge the pain, so you're not fighting it, because you're not I think so many clients that we see think they have a bad part of them, or something is happening and it's bad. And it's reframing that to know this is the way you feel. Just acknowledge it, because once you acknowledge it, sometimes things disappear anyway. You're not pushing against your own unconscious mind. And once you acknowledge it, you can then begin to understand, well, what's it trying to do for me? So sometimes just sitting quietly and asking, what are you trying to do for me with this pain? And what I found out of late is generally the reaction you're getting and the intention from your unconscious mind are one of this. It's like they're opposites of the same thing. So if I've got anxiety, the positive intention could be to keep me away from stressful situations, things that could go wrong. But I'm getting scared and anxious about not doing it now. So my unconscious mind's positive intention to keep me safe is actually making me feel unsafe. And it's that realization. So sometimes we just have to stop. I often say just stop and pause. Just stop and pause for a moment. Don't fight your unconscious mind. Don't fight yourself. And just acknowledge and then decide, how would you like to feel? How would you like to feel better? How would you like to achieve what you want to achieve? Because if you're, as you know, we pick up the negatives so quickly. They're easy to think about. They're easy to exaggerate. Our imagination can go wild on negatives so easily. Well, if you can just stop for a moment and then start to look the other way, how you want to feel, then that's giving your unconscious mind a chance to just think for a moment, which is working. And the whole of our therapy is really just saying, just find that intention of it, a different way, a better way, an appropriate way, a way that feels comfortable. So I think sometimes it's just a matter of just stopping for a moment.
Yeah.
Acknowledge it, and how do I want to feel?
So that's really, really important to everyone to get right now. So most people will not take time to accept and acknowledge where they are, because why? It doesn't feel good. To be able to say, look, I accept that I'm an anxious person, or I feel like an imposter. There's probably been taught a lot of shame to admit something is wrong with us, or perceived to be wrong, something to our disliking. So that is so important to everyone. It's not something that I usually speak about. I usually kind of go straight into take responsibility for where you are, what you're going to do from this moment, which is just, in a way the same, but you've brought a different perspective on it that goes, look, it's okay to acknowledge where you are, even if you dislike it, because that's not shameful. You don't have to feel bad or guilty. It just shows that you're human, and the acknowledgement is actually a start to be able to then acknowledge what you do want. If this is who I am right now, and I no longer want this, I acknowledge and accept that. Well, what is going to be my new acceptance? What am I going to acknowledge what I do really want, while simultaneously understanding the unconscious mind has that positive intention for protection, right?
That's right. And if you think about that, the very first thing you said was that, we have to admit that we haven't got it. And if you think of anything that you want, you have to admit you haven't got it yet. And that can be difficult.
It can make you feel fearful. The scarcity, right? I haven't got it, so therefore
Absolutely.
There's a separation within us which creates scarcity or fear.
And we've got those limiting beliefs that I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm stupid, I don't deserve this. And you get all of that coming together. Well, we know the positive intention of all of that is to not let you feel that embarrassment or that fear when you get there. But when you just think, how would I like to be differently? And then you suddenly say, well, which one would work better? If it was only just I felt comfortable and aware, would that be better than feeling anxious? Would I be able to do some of the things that I want to do and be safe? But to do that, you have to stop, acknowledge, and just say, okay, this is where I am, and now I know where I want to go. and we start looking in the other direction. The old thing is stop looking in your rearview mirror, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Look to the direction you want to go. You will go there.
Yeah, you can glance back where you were from that little rear view mirror, but not to live in that rear view mirror. We've got to look at the front where we're heading. And just to repeat to everyone, it is so important. Write it down. Make a decision that it's okay to accept where you are. Acceptance doesn't mean guilt or shame. Acceptance doesn't even mean that I accept myself to remain in this position. Because that could be another thing that people think. If I accept my circumstance, people might be thinking. We're not saying accept your circumstance. Just accept that I'm experiencing something which is to my disliking. And that's okay, because from this moment on, I'm moving forward.
Or when you get that mindset, even then, I'm moving forward, you have a positive belief, don't you? Because it must mean that I can do that. Even if you start thinking, well, have I ever done anything like this before? Because we know we have. But because we've got all our focus of attention on that negative stuff, which comes on that old reptilian brain of trying to protect us from all the prehistoric stuff, the reason we are here is because we've got a great line of DNA which protects us. It's been doing wonderfully well, but there aren't those things that are going to scare us or eat us. We're going to be around. So once we start looking at that and just looking at what we've done in the past sometimes, and when we're working with clients, we will just start talking about the things that they like doing and how comfortable they were and what would happen if they had that same mindset, those same skills or emotions and the same belief in that negative situation. What would happen? And they said, well, I couldn't be frightened, I couldn't be anxious. And then you have that thing about, okay, now we'll integrate the things, but we're not fighting our unconscious mind anymore. We're now working with it. It's a work with, isn't it?
Definitely. We're reducing resistance in the unconscious mind. Another great thing, my dad, Paul Clough, who actually, just so you know, works in my company in our program. So a very, very powerful coach who's been doing this for, did you say 23 years? 21 years?
21
years.
Get the key of the door.
Yeah, it's so important just to get that the things that you enjoy, as you said, which presupposes that you have everything you need within you already, which people don't think about. Like, if I'm really confident when I'm playing chess or knitting or football, soccer, or anything, it means you have that resource and ability, but it's just in a different area of your life. So reflecting upon what you do enjoy or what you are really good at just proves to me that you have everything that you need within you. It's just misplaced at the moment, or it's just a little bit conflicted with the unconscious mind.
And even if you ask the question, when you think about that, a time when I was confident and safe. So I was doing something, I enjoyed it, I felt very comfortable, I was obviously confident in doing it. And you can just ask yourself, then, what would happen if I did have that in another context? And by that, I know you're asking the question consciously, but we know your unconscious mind is listening to everything you do and think anyway. And also, when you ask that question, what pictures are you going to make in your mind? You're going to start thinking about doing that thing, the thing you were frightened of before, doing it in that confident way. And then your unconscious mind is going to start, with those pictures, start thinking, well, oh, so we're still safe and we're comfortable and we're actually getting to like what we do. It's enjoyable. It's actually going to allow us to have more opportunities and to be even safer. Because if you ask anybody, think about this, someone who's having a panic attack, how safe are they? They don't feel safe, but sometimes they're not even safe to themselves because they're running around, they're not looking, they got this tunnel vision, they're bumping into things and things like that. Well, that's no longer appropriate anymore because it's not doing the job of keeping you safe. And just showing your unconscious mind what it might be like by, we've got the one thing I think is the most powerful thing that we have is our imagination. And if you imagine something that as if it was never going to happen, so this will never, ever, ever, ever happen. Let's imagine I'm doing that thing just the way I want it. Because that opens the door to your imagination. And having said that to yourself, well, it's never going to happen, so I will imagine it. And I can imagine it just the way I want it. Your unconscious mind starts to think, well, we could do that. We can do that. And then you feel differently. And things start to change bit by bit. That familiar zone, that comfort zone suddenly gets bigger as ripples of changes. And what always happens, we know, is that we deal with one issue, but that affects, if we're unconfident or anxious in one area of our life, when we resolve that, what happens? All other areas of our life change too, because we can become confident in different areas. We work with someone with a phobia and all of a sudden they become more confident at work. And then they're supposedly not related, but they do. It just happens.
Yeah, I mean, if we take the flip opposite of that, I know what I've spoken about lots of times, and it's what we definitely include in the program, is that most people work on their symptoms, and the problem just keeps on coming back because they don't go and resolve the unconscious hidden core, which is so important to get. But once you let go of that unconscious hidden core, not only all those symptoms disappear, like you said in the example, but in the opposite almost, like it just changes everything. But then having let go of it, it means when you go into your career or you go into that relationship, you are more confident. Like, it may not have directly affected your relationship, but it had an effect on it, where you're just stressed or anxious at work. It's going to have an effect on your relationship. So now you're resolving the root cause, but then gaining all these other resources which have an impact on every area of your life. So important to get that once you resolve the hidden cause, you not only let go of the symptoms, but you then start to gain resources, actions and reactions which go into all the other areas of your life which you didn't realize could be improved because the issue was getting in the way.
That's right. Well, we've seen it so many times, and I've seen it where people have worked on one of those effects, just the one. And if they resolve that, it seems to pop up somewhere else. They get a different effect.
Or it just comes back.
About that, and then the other one comes back again. And then, and that's a lot of therapies work on, just effects. And to me, that's not giving or being honourable to the change and honourable to the unconscious mind. We know the unconscious mind is trying its damnedest to do something really good for you. We just have to get it to access those resources that are going to allow you to do whatever you want, because it's possible. But we just have to change. And it's all about learning, isn't it? Learning from an unconscious level, which allows that you learn from that root cause, and boom, everything has to change. And then with the program and all the processes and the protocols, you build on it. So now I'm confident how I could put confidence in different areas of my life. And it's not just confidence, maybe. Confidence may be things where you want to be sometimes excited, sometimes curious, sometimes just to be with somebody, to open up. We have that wonderful term, vulnerability. But just because a lot of people use it doesn't mean to say it's wrong. But when you're confident in being who you really are, that to me is being vulnerable. You're putting yourself out there in the true sense of you. And when you do that, life is, I think, what it should be. And you then get to dream the goals that you really want, not what other people think you should have or you think you can't have. You actually start creating that stuff. And that's where this, you still get the woo-woo la-la, creating your reality. But take the woo-woo la-la off. Once you start using your skills that you have, all the resources you have inside, all those positive beliefs, everything you do is what you're creating because you're responsible for it. So therefore you are creating your reality. And people come with you because they get the benefit of you. I always tell people, and I'm not supposed to be feminist or whatever, but a lot of the mothers see in the clinic, they come along and say, but it's selfish to work on myself. I've got a family, I've got children. And you go, but when you work on yourself, and you get to be who you really are, enjoying who you really want to be and love being, all the people who love you get to be around you when you are being your best, and they get to be their best, because it's an upward spiral then, as opposed to the downward spiral of the negativity. It just grows, and those ripples of changes go everywhere, because you're now happier being around the people you love because they're happier, and that just grows and grows, all from just resolving that one little thing. And as we know, most of this stuff is all one little thing that's grown out of proportion, just got bigger and bigger as time goes by.
Yeah.
You resolve the little thing, and it all disappears.
And it's important to just bring up that point, like, it's not selfish working on yourself. It's actually very unselfish, because other people is going to benefit. So look, if you're thinking about making a decision about your personal growth or your transformation or becoming happier, realize actually that's the most powerful thing you can do for yourself, but also for other people in your life, and the people you don't know you're going to meet yet, or the opportunities, because transforming yourself is going to have an effect on everyone in a great and powerful way. So make that decision, make that leap, and go all in on it if it's something that you really, really desire, and of course you do deserve. So with that, I think we should probably close down this episode so we can save it for the next ones, because I would like to be able to get a couple of these out per month with my father, Paul Clough. As I said, works with in my program. And if you are interested in that program, if you're experiencing imposter syndrome, inner critic, self-doubt when it comes to your career or your business, go ahead and watch our masterclass, which is www.josephclough.info/power. And that means you'll be able to watch the on-demand class and see if it resonates with you, see if it makes sense, because if it does, then we might be able to have an opportunity to actually work with you in the program. It is only application based. You can't just buy it online, because we want to make sure you're the perfect fit, the perfect candidate to get the perfect results. So I'd like to thank you, Dad, for being on this podcast. And
it's been a pleasure, all mine.
We'll go deeper into other subjects and other frames of references on future episodes. Many thanks and goodbye.